The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Darkside of the Pooch, Dr. Rab, what you got? We got some killer emails we're going to get into here. Dr. Rab Stewart from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. It's Darkside of the Pooch. You can hear it live every Monday at noon and 8. We're going to be expanding that, by the way. We're adding 2 more shows throughout the week, Dr. Rab. You didn't even know that, did you?
I love it. The more the merrier.
There really is, and this is one of our best shows. It's one of our funnest shows, and of course, you can go back and listen to all of our previous shows on Spotify or Audio Boom or wherever you get your podcast. Just look at Tony Kurre Radio, Kurre with a K, or Darkside of the Pooch, and of course, it's always brought to you by Ed's Pet World for all of your exotic pet needs. They've got everything from chinchillas, they got parrots that'll talk, they got caiman alligators in there once in a while, they got tarantulas, they got bearded dragons, they got geckos, they got rabbits, they got everything down there. Check them out at Ed's Pet World, almost 50 years in the business right there in Homewood. And also Seth travels the world looking for great collectible toys, watches, Star Wars stuff still in the box. So if you're looking for great collectible toys or any exotic pet, Ed's Pet World is the place to be. You can buy, sell, and trade. Check them out. It'd be awesome. I like to, we got a ton of great mutt mail we're going to get into. And this story is super sad, but it should make you feel super good. I want to share it with you, and I saw it this morning here. But according to proposed legislation, pet ownership would be subject to a permit used by a special committee. It would no longer allow anyone to own a pet in Iran. The Iranian parliament could soon approve the Protection of Public's Rights Against Animals bill. Debates around this bill started more than a decade ago when a group of Iranian MPs tried to promote a law to confiscate all dogs and give them to zoos or leave them in deserts. Can you imagine?
That's awful. You can't have a pet, and then if you do have a pet, they're going to take it away from you. I don't even know what to say to that.
Police forces arrest people for walking their dogs or even carrying them in their cars based on their interpretation of what could be seen as symbols of westernization. Nobody likes the West, my friend.
You know what's weird is my mind first goes to, are there veterinarians in Iran?
There is.
Seems like there have to be. And so you're going to take away their livelihood. I'm sure I know very little about Iran, but I'm sure there's tons of farming there. They've got to have farm animals and stuff. So I'm sure the veterinarians take care of them, but that's terrible for so many reasons.
What's crazy too is the Persian cat came from Iran. You know that, right? The Persian cats.
Oh yeah.
You will no longer be able to have a Persian cat from the country where it came from, which is pretty amazing stuff. But we'll move on. We got some great mutt mail here. First of all, what's going on at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital? 208-0301, 208-0301, and of course at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter. Not to mention, of course, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital at Facebook. What's going on out at the big shop? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's good. Just pretty much routine, typical stuff. Nothing crazy going on. I wish I had some fantastic, fascinating stories, but just routine stuff for the last little while.
All right, let's get into some mutt mail here. Go to info@tonykurreradio.net, info@tonykurreradio.net. You can leave your emails. You can also, of course, go to our website, tonykurreradio.net, and become a bonehead and get into it. Manny in Tallahassee says he knows you're a big Phish ticket guy. He's going to, is it Wantagh, New York? Wantagh, Wantagh, New York. They're playing up there tomorrow.
Yeah, Bethel.
Yes, there you go. They're playing on the 26th and 27th. He heard this story about Ticketmaster upping their prices for the 2023 Bruce Springsteen tour. And some tickets are going from $5,000 to $10,000. That is face value for a Ticketmaster show to see Bruce Springsteen. He goes, what's the most Rab's ever spent on a Phish ticket?
The most I ever spent on a Phish ticket was 2019 for New Year's. And I went to Madison Square Garden. It was on my Phish bucket list.
Yes.
They usually play Madison Square Garden for New Year's, and they sold out. I mean, you try to go. Phish has a lottery system that they run. You know, the band runs it or their organization runs it, and you can put in for the lottery, and it's like a pre-sale. But
Mhm.
you know, you may get drawn, you may not. So I put in for the lottery. We did not get drawn, and so then you're just left to fend for yourself in the on sale at Ticketmaster. So Phish fans went like, we want to avoid Ticketmaster at all costs because it's ridiculous. Like you can be in the queue and you can get kicked out of the queue and it just doesn't make any sense. So I tried to get the on sale and they sold out Ticketmaster really quickly. And so I had to go secondary market. And I went to all 4 nights for that New Year's run. No, I'm sorry. I went to 3 out of 4. And I think I paid $250 a ticket.
That's a bargain. That's great. You know, I was talking about this morning on Tony Curry Live. You know, we used to sit outside the Magic Platter. I remember camping out for 4 days to get U2 tickets down at Legion Field. And I think when we got to, and of course, a lot of people would call in. You could either call or go to location. You go to Parisian or separate Magic Platters in different areas where you could actually, they were I guess, a Ticket Link or Ticketmaster distributor. And you know, you'd wait for 3 or 4 days, you get there and you get on the floor, but you'd be 27 rows back. And that's just the way it worked. But then you could always, and you had scalpers and everything else. And now it's getting to the point where, you know, and maybe, you know, Elton John played at MetLife Stadium last night and the night before up in New York. It's the last time he'll play the city of New York on his Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour. And I don't know if it's because it's Elton John or Bruce Springsteen. Phish plays a ton of shows, so I'd figure if you'd want to see Phish, you probably could at a pretty, honorable rate. But it just seems like concert tickets are so difficult to get these days, and they're so damn expensive.
They are. You know, recently I tried to figure out, okay, does Ticketmaster have any physical locations anymore? It was like I don't remember what I was going to see, but they don't. Like they don't have any physical locations. You can't go and camp out or sit around. There's no phone number you can call. And it's really, I mean, it's a shame because I remember, and you, just like you said, I remember finding a Ticketmaster outlet in some other, you know, it's like at a Publix or it's at some grocery store. And so you would just go and you would wait for them to open and you would rush in and you would get the tickets. And like those days are gone. And it's just really sad now because of all the bots and the scalpers and the, you know, StubHub stuff and the SeatGeek and what Ticketmaster does with platinum tickets. It is such a shame that it's almost like a concert now has become a super white collar event where you can't go unless you're prepared to spend thousands of dollars. And it's just, and I don't know if we talked about this or not, but you know, country music, it depends on like the subgenre of country. It's not, you know, popular country is not my favorite, but I give Garth Brooks so much credit for what he did when he went to Protective, you know, a month or so ago. Every ticket was $100.
Yep.
Whether you were on the front row or the nosebleeds. And that to me was just awesome. So Garth Brooks, I'm sure that you are listening to the show. And if you're not, then really, who are you? But hey, thank you, Garth.
No, I totally agree with you. And you know, a lot of bands, they were trying to do the right thing by not allowing secondary markets to get a hold of their tickets. And so they would just go through one major ticket broker, which would be a Ticketmaster. Now Ticketmaster is taking advantage, and they've got this dynamic pricing mode that they use where they actually trickle the tickets out. They don't release all the tickets at one time. And so this trickle the tickets out, and they get as much as they possibly can for each ticket. And then based on the demand, they'll drop the prices as people don't want to buy them. And so it just, you know, I remember going to Oak Mountain Amphitheater, and man, I remember there's some weeks where we did 2 or 3 shows a week for a month. And you could afford to go to every one of them. I know it was 38 Special and Molly Hatchet. It wasn't Garth Brooks, and it wasn't Kiss, and it wasn't, you know, Elton John and Bruce Springsteen. But for people that want to see these guys who are in their upper 60s and early 70s one last time, it just sucks. Okay, we get off our soapbox. Melanie in Birmingham, this is Darkside the Pooch. You can hear it live every Monday. Thanks to thousands of folks who listen every Monday at noon and 8. We have a replay at 8 o'clock. And, of course, you can also check us out on Spotify, Audio Boom, wherever you get your podcast. Melanie in Birmingham is the happy tail syndrome actually a thing? She said she heard of a friend of hers that took her dog to the beach and they thought the tail was broken because she wouldn't wag it, and they come to find out it was just tired.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's, you know, I mean, it's in medical books and stuff. And it's just from it. You see it a lot in the dogs that swim, if they've been swimming a lot because they use that tail as a rudder sometimes, or if they wag it a lot. So yeah, it's a real thing. It just tail gets sore, and treat it with an anti-inflammatory for a few days, and just take some time, and it gets better.
We got some great emails here, and they're all over the board, so be ready here. Dr. Rab, Pete in Tampa Bay says social media site Nextdoor has got a poll up right now. Is it okay to put dog poop in your neighbor's trash can? He wants to know what Dr. Rab thinks.
I'm going to say it's okay. People do it at our office a lot. Because they're walking their dogs, and they're like, oh, I'm sure these people deal with dog poop all day, every day, which we do. So, I mean, I've never done it because I would just put it in my own. That's just because that's who I am. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's not like it's a truckload of poop. Now, I mean, if they were like shoveling in like an F-150 load of dog crap into your garbage can, then yeah, I would have an issue with that because I don't have room for all my kids' dirty diapers or whatever else we're putting in there. So I need room for my own human feces that's coming from my little monsters running around the house. Yeah, I don't have room for your dog poop. I would, if it's just 1 or 2 bags,
I would say, well, listen, they're asking people. Obviously, you don't want people or dogs pooping in your yard, right? So they want you to pick it up. And I see all my neighbors walking around with their little shovel and their little bag. I've got my shit kicking shoes that I have that I just use, and I just kick the turds back onto the street, so I don't have to worry about it. It just gets run over. But if you're going to do that, it's got to be on days where trash is coming. If it's trash pickup and the trash cans are actually up against the street and you're walking your dog, I have no problem doing that. I really don't.
Don't come into my backyard and put your dog poop into my trash can. If it's at the street, for sure, no problem.
Larry in Fairhope said it seems humans are having a tough time staying awake during the day and even worse, sleeping at night. Is it just a foregone conclusion that all pets sleep well at night? And if they don't, how do you know, and what can you do about it?
Well, I'm one of these people where I'm not really sure about my own dog because he sleeps downstairs and all of our bedrooms are upstairs. So I don't think that dogs sleep all through the night. I don't think it's one of these things where they go to bed at 9 p.m. and they wake up at 6 or 7 or whatever. I think that they do sleep a lot during the day. Most dogs, if we're not home. There was some really famous, I don't know if it was like a writer or an artist or something, but I think this is such a famous story that people out there listening they're going to know. But he would sleep for a designated number of hours. I think it was like 2 or 3 hours. And then he would wake up and work for like 1 or 2 hours. And he just did that for 24 hours because he felt like it made him more productive rather than just taking huge blocks of time. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that would work for me, but I think that's kind of how dog sleep schedules are. I think that they're sleeping some during the day. They wake up, they do the same thing at night. So the only way you could really tell is you're going to have to stay up or maybe set up a camera in your house so that you can watch them go. But, as long as they are taking at least several, blocks a day where they're resting, then there's nothing to worry about. But dogs get older and they can get dementia and they have a really hard time settling down. They're up, they're pacing during the night. And so if you hear your dog walking around and they're not being real restful at nighttime, then there could be a problem. And there are medications you can give to help them. So if she has any inkling that her dog may not be resting at nighttime, there could be a medical reason for it, especially if it's an older pet.
There is, this is Dr. Rab Stewart, of course, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital's Darkside of the Pooch. You can hear it every Monday live here on Tony Kurre Radio and also wherever you get your podcast. 208-0301, 208-0301, Rossbridge Animal Hospital on Twitter and on Facebook. I think this is interesting. I have a neighbor down the street who is an older man. Probably in his 80s, and he has a pretty big dog, and I never see the dog in the front yard unless he's taking it out. And I see him in 3 or 4 times a day, and he brings the dog out for about 5 or 10 minutes to do its business, and he goes back in. And I know a lot of older people are looking for pets to perhaps keep them company. The man lives them alone. Are those dogs happy? Are they happy? Because I know my dogs love, and I know different breeds do different things, and I know dogs love to get out and be walked, and I know they love to run around. But if it's a dog that's just keeping you company, and maybe you're an invalid, maybe perhaps you can't get out of the house, you can't move around much, are those dogs happy, you think?
Yeah, I think they are, because
Okay,
I
good.
think that the owners will probably spoil them in a lot of different ways, give them a lot of attention, and probably a lot of snacks and treats, maybe even to
Yes,
their
yeah.
detriment. But, like my dog right now, the kids are outside a lot running around and playing. And so our dog is outside a lot running around and playing. So he gets a lot of outside activity. But, when it comes to, because of our stage of life that we're in with my family, he probably doesn't get as many, pats on the head and, come cuddle with me on the couch, that kind of stuff. And I would bet that a lot of these, older pet owners, that's where they really thrive in giving their pets that in-house attention, on the couch or in the recliner and that kind of stuff.
There you go. Tabitha in Kalamazoo, Michigan said she found a stray cat and wants to know how old it is. She had been told through some friends that she could look at its teeth. Sometimes the cloudiness of their eyes can dictate how old a cat is. How do you find out?
It's really subjective, and she's right about the teeth and the eyes. The teeth are probably a better way for me to tell. And the way that you get good at that is you see a lot of teeth for pets that how old they are. So that's how people in the veterinary field are good at aging pets, because we see a lot of kittens and a lot of puppies, and we see them grow up, and until they're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And we look at their teeth every 6 months. So we have the benefit of knowing what an 8-year-old cat's teeth look like, whereas a lot of other people don't. So that it's very subjective, because some pets will experience tartar buildup or dental disease either more frequently than the average pet, or faster than the average pet, or not quite as fast as the average pet. So it's always a little bit of a guessing game. But if you have a pet that you look at their teeth and there's no brown staining around the gum line, then they're going to probably be less than 2 years old. And then as they get older, you're just going to see an increased amount of that brown calculus start at the gum line and work its way down the tooth. So, if you have a thin line, maybe they're going to be in between 3 to 5 years old. If you have thicker line, they're going to be older than that. Now, it's not very common, but if you do have a pet that, let's say, was well cared for, and for whatever reason it just got loose, ran away, escaped, was stolen, and then released or whatever, some pets may have had their teeth cleaned multiple times, and so that'll throw you off. Like maybe a dog escaped from a house and they had his teeth cleaned a year ago, and so you're looking at this dog and you think, oh well, this is pretty young. So, but it's going to fool you. So you do kind of just have to have experience, looking at the body condition of the dog and, how muscled they are, because, younger dogs and older dogs, they have different looks. The eyes are harder, because what will happen is the eyes will get kind of blue or hazy, and that's called sclerosis, and it's aging of the eye. And once that happens, a lot of times there's no varying levels of it. It comes on, very slowly. It's very insidious. But then when it happens, a lot of times it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah.
So that's why it can be hard to tell how old they are based on the aging of the eye.
Jody in Henderson County, Nevada, brought up something very interesting. It's a little sad, too, because we obviously went through a pandemic, and during that pandemic, a lot of people got dogs and cats. A lot of people were at home. They could take care of a pet, and so they got it. And then, of course, the housing market got all screwy. Everything went through the roof, and a lot of people, including Jody and Henderson, realized that they couldn't afford their home anymore, or it was being bought out by Wall Street, and so they had to go rent. And when they went to rent, they weren't allowed to bring their pets with them. She still wants to know if there's an epidemic of foster and adoption issues going on with pets in the United States, and mainly here in Birmingham. She listens every week.
I think that here the the rescue groups have a lot of pets right now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long ago that the Humane Society, and I think that this was, 6 or 8 months ago, I think it's probably decreased a little bit, but it was hard for the Humane Society to take any more pets on because they had so many. So I don't know if it's, because of a housing issue, it could be, but I do think that rescue groups and humane societies are stretched pretty thin right now.
It's really sad. And it really is. And I think everyone, you just assume that when you have a dog with you and you live in a home and you're not buying another home and maybe you're downsizing or whatever, you just assume that animal's always going to be with you. And all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute, I can't bring my dog with me. It's kind of like when you go to vacation, right? I mean, I know you guys do boarding there and you do a fantastic job and you're just ripping and roaring all summer long. But a lot of people want to take their pets to their condos and stuff, and they can't do that. Although I believe that more hotels are now allowing people to bring their dogs and cats with them, so that's a good thing. Ted has got a really interesting question. He's in Washington, D.C. He's a stockbroker. He said, in a recession and volatile stock market, you'll always bank on products you must have, and pet stocks are one of those. He said, we're always going to feed our pets, and we're probably spending more now pampering our pets than we've ever done ever. I know frozen food is big, and now people are going with this really, really high-quality organic dog food. Every time I turn the TV on, I'm saying, don't give your dog Purina, give him the really good stuff. But he wants to know if Dr. Rab invest in any pet products or pet stock. He said the stock has been going up big time since the pandemic started.
I don't. I should.
It's a good idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And there's some veterinary, I'm not going to name them because as soon as I do, somebody's going to go like put a ton of money in it and then it's going to
tell me off air.
Yeah. I'll tell you. But there are two companies in the veterinary field that if you invested in them probably 10 or 12 years ago, you have made a good bit of money. They're lab. Mm-hmm. It's a lab company, yep. Not a Labrador company, but a lab and technology company. And then there's another kind of a medicinal pharmaceutical company that have, just skyrocketed. So I am extremely conservative when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I like big blue chip kind of stuff because I don't want to. I just don't want to deal with it. I've got enough going on as it is. And so I don't worry with like investing in certain companies. I just kind of do big, kind of big ticket stuff. But yeah, look into it. I don't know if they'll continue to grow like they have over the last 10 or 12 years, but man, if you did it back then, you've made a lot of money. And
I know some of those businesses like Chewy are killing it right now too, because obviously you're part of a situation where stuff's coming every single month. So you're on an auto debit thing, and once they get you, they got you. So that works out really, really well. We used to do a stock contest when I was on Jocks with Alan J. And I would win every single year, and I would always do it sometime. It always fell. I'm Catholic, so it always fall around Lent time, and I was always investing in fisheries because I knew Catholic people were going to be eating a crap ton of fish during Lent. That's awesome. And it would go up, and then it would go right back down right after Easter. So something just to think about. Sometimes if you put your mind to it, you can actually make some money here. I saw a really interesting story that I want to get into, and we have a couple more emails here. Mail, info@TonyCurryRadio.net, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. You're listening to us live here on Tony Curry Radio, the TKR app. Thanks to tens of thousands of folks who have hopped on board. We got you in the Ukraine. We've got you in Sydney, Australia. We got you in Canada, and certainly right here. Lots and lots of people within a 100-mile radius of the Hoover area where Tony Curry Radio resides. There is a brand new poll that came out asking how much they thought their pet was worth. And the reason they found out, and this is 451 dog owners and 314 cat owners in May of this year, and how they deciphered what they thought their cat was worth was if they took them to a veterinarian, what would you be willing to pay to see them live? Do you want to take a stab at what the average American would pay to save their dog?
Is there one for cats too?
Yes.
Is there a dog one and a cat
yeah.
one? Okay. All right. I think for a dog, average is going to be $9,000.
It's $5,137.
Okay.
And then what is it for cats?
It's definitely going to be less than that. So I'm just going to go half, $2,500.
Yeah, about $3,324. And so I guess my question here is, in the United States alone, we spent more than $2.6 billion on caring for our pets. Talk a little bit about pet insurance. I know we've gotten into this on previous shows, but is pet insurance a good thing? Is it something that you want to get early? Is it cheaper if you get it earlier than when you get, obviously, if you have a car that's 10 years old, you're probably going to be calling America Shield. But if you get it done early, then you're probably going to be protected.
I think that pet insurance is something that people should consider, and you can consider it for emergency situations. Certain emergencies or all emergencies will be covered, or just sick visits will be covered, or wellness visits will be covered, or all of the above. In the veterinary field, we don't have really any interaction with the insurance company other than we report what the diagnosis or suspected diagnosis is and what the treatment is and what the invoice was. We don't get paid by the insurance company. We get paid by the client. So it's still, there's still a transaction between the client and the practice. And then the client gets reimbursed, once they've reached their deductible, whatever that is. So,
and I'll bet you absolutely love that. You don't have to deal with insurance companies.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with it. Insurance companies, I guess it's a necessary evil, but some of it is evil, because it affects at least on the human side, it affects the level of care, and it helps drive pricing, and it's very, very frustrating. And so in our profession so far, we don't have to deal with that. We can, here's what it costs. Whether or not you have insurance or not, we're not going to let that play a factor in how we provide your pet with care. We're going to do the best that we can and the best that you will, allow us to do, based on what you want to spend, basically, just like we talked about. And we'll get the best plan, we'll get the best medical plan together that we can. So I think that in one way, pet insurance is good because it does help people avoid big kind of sticker shock if there's a big procedure that has to be done, and it can help people afford just routine care as well. So I think that it is something that people should maybe consider when you get a new pet. But the thing that is even more important is I would really encourage people, if you're going to get a new pet, look up and see on average pets how much you're going to need to spend per year for vet visits and for vaccines and for the proper preventative care like heartworm prevention and flea and tick prevention. And just be sure that your budget can afford that. And if it can, then you're good to go. Get the pet. And then think about pet insurance for, emergency situations or something. But don't let insurance, be the deciding factor on if you can afford a pet based on, oh, well, the insurance will cover this, so I can afford it.
I've got to ask you, what's the most you've ever heard of someone spending on a procedure for an animal to save it?
I've heard of 5 figures at a referral. If you have to go to a referral hospital, like Auburn or Mississippi State or Tennessee or Georgia. I think the highest, and this has been several years ago. But there was a dog with a pretty serious neurological condition, and I think they came out at about 10,000. But that's really rare. Really, really rare. Yeah. If you have to go to a referral hospital, I tell people, you need to plan on a few $1,000s. Maybe 3,000 or 4,000.
And according to this survey, too, 63% of all Americans believe that their dog is a part of their family, and 60% of people actually think their cat is part of their family, too, which I thought was a little high. Great show, my man. Brought to you by Ed's Pet World for all of your exotic pets, man. Any exotic pet you want, and they're going to teach you everything there is, whether it's a ball boa, which I bought from Ed's, and I get my mice down there. They got chinchillas. They got beautiful birds and parakeets. They had some mourning doves in there a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was super cool. All kinds of great fish, rabbits, chinchillas. They got you covered down there. Check it out. giant snakes. They got a beautiful yellow python down there called Pearl, too. The thing weighs about 300 pounds. It's beautiful. Check it out. Go down to Ed's Pet World. Of course, Seth also does wonderful toys. He travels the United States, toy places, does all kinds of collectibles, watches, stuff still in the box. If you walk through there, kids are going to absolutely love it. Check out Ed's Pet World down there, in business for nearly 50 years in Homewood. Dr. Rab, thank you so much. We will catch up next week, my man.
All right. Enjoyed it.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.